Ba what a ba da bang da bang diggy 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 said the boogie said up jump the boogie. Welcome to Rapid Reviews. I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We're the brothers Murph, and it's time, like I said, to review things rapidly in a rapid fashion.
Yeah.
We're not going to waste too much time, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk about every game we played in January and quickly tell you our thoughts on them. Most of them are positive because most of them are games we own and such like that, but
yeah,
we tried a decent amount, I think, of new things this month.
We always, even though despite the pandemic, like we always get some new stuff, but it's mostly older stuff, and that's honestly fine. Like, it's just, that's, I think, how most people are ultimately.
Nothing wrong with playing a classic.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But yeah, this Rapid Reviews will be a little shorter than our last Rapid Reviews because we reviewed everything that we owned last time.
It'll be the fraction of
216. This is going to be a shorter video, which is good. Wait, how many games did we play this month? 36?
I think we played 36.
So a little bit slower month, actually, which is still more than one game a day, which is really cool.
I'm into it. It's a good average. You know, we did have our January 1st game marathon, which helped boost some of those numbers and stuff. So let's hop right in. The first thing we played was Mandala Stones.
Yeah.
We played this on New Year's Eve, and then I played it since with Karen a number of times.
Yeah.
This is a new one from Board and Dice that's coming out in March.
Yep.
It's like kind of their spring release, and it's like an abstract game where you're picking up these different stones and putting them into these little towers on your player board, and then at times you can take stones off your player board to score.
Yeah.
And each little stack, you can have 5 different stacks on your board before you have to score. They all want different things. Certain ones, if it's the third stone in the stack that you remove, that's the most valuable. Sometimes it's the lowest one in the stack. So you don't want that. You want to have that stack be only one thing high because you don't want to bury a valuable stone. And so it's a cool, abstract, beautiful game where you're just moving these pillars around to collect these different stones based off of a pattern. Yeah. And it's a game that's super simple to explain, but really fun, and you can get pretty strategic. You
can. It's in the same vein as like Azul or those kinds of games where they're like really pretty abstract games that kind of anyone can learn and pick up. And this one is one of the best ones. It's really fun. Cool. I like it a lot, and it's thinky but like accessible. It really sings. It's great.
Yeah. Another one we played was Codenames Duet. Yeah. We haven't played Codenames Duet in a while.
It's so good. We did
during a marathon, but what I mean in a while, I mean like outside of the marathon, we hadn't played this
I don't really count the marathon. I mean, I do, but it's like, just because everything was so quick that I just kind of ignore it in that way where it's like, oh, no, we didn't really play it. We thought we did. Yeah. But yeah, Codenames Duet, we played again. This is the 2-player cooperative version of Codenames, which is really, in our opinion, it's the best version of Codenames. It's just so fun to try to like get in each other's minds and stuff. And we like to play this one live on Twitch at twitch.tv/brothersmurph.
Bam, be there.
Because it's just so fun to play with the chat because we basically we're still playing together, but then the chat can help give suggestions.
Kind of make it a team effort.
Yeah, and they both help and hinder, and it's great. It's just so. It's like the amalgamation of your brain where you're like, oh, it's this, and your brain goes, it could be this, and then you're like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that.
Like, I think it's this, and you're like, yeah, it's this, and it's not.
Yeah, and Codenames Duet, it's so much fun. If you like Codenames, especially if you play a lot of 2-player games, you haven't tried it yet. Definitely try it. It is so much fun. It really takes the beauty of Codenames and makes it more refined and just it works the best.
Being basically the exact same game, it's cool the way the 2-playerness works. It's really cleverly designed. While it's incredibly familiar, it is distinctly its own thing. Yeah, it's great, fantastic. Really good. A game we played because I got an amazing gift from this gentle person right here. I got this awesome 3D cribbage board.
Is it?
It's over there on our shelf in a place of glory.
We're tied in.
It's raised up high. Maybe we'll put a picture in here. It is. I got this awesome 3D cribbage board that's like all naturey, like you're kind of going along a hiking trail and you literally go across a river and stuff. And there's tents and kayaks and all these great features
super cool
to make this really rad cribbage board. So we played some cribbage on it to celebrate my gift, and it is amazing. I love it so much. We have a collection of cribbage boards, and I've never seen one that does like 3D terrain.
Me neither. That's why I got it for you. Yeah,
because we see different shapes usually. But it's kind of a
we have like 4 or 5. Well, actually, no, we have probably more than that because we've gotten gifted cribbage boards by followers, which is super
micro
cool.
boards and giant boards.
Yeah, it's very cool. But our grandfather used to make cribbage boards because he's like a woodworker, so we have a bunch. And one of those things where it's just like, I just always want new cribbage boards because I like to have a collection. Like honestly, like if in my game room, if I ever had like a house with like a game room, I would probably have like people put crokinole boards on the wall. Yeah. Like I would do that with cribbage boards.
That'd be really cool.
Just because I love how because in the end, as long as it's got the holes for the pegs, you can literally make it whatever you want. Yeah. So and in this case, it's like this really cool 3D one
on a nature walk
that a friend showed me, and I was like, I'm getting Mike that for his birthday because that's awesome, and it's something that no one would ever expect. So yeah, it's real cool. And Cribbage is great. It's the best classic card game ever.
It's incredible. It's
so much
infinitely
fun.
replayable.
Oh my gosh,
Speaking of your replayability.
I know. Speaking of that game,
that game doesn't change ever, and it's always playable.
It sure doesn't.
Nick, we also played Tawantinsuyu, the Inca Empire.
This might be my favorite.
We played this again on New Year's Day, and then we also played it at the very end of the month.
Yeah, we just played it Saturday. Yeah, no, Sunday. Saturday.
This is another board and dice game. And this one is really interesting because it's got a lot of stuff going on. This is David Tursky, and David Tursky, a very smart person, so he makes very smart person games.
What David Tursky's mind is, man. Just Anachrony, all these crazy games where I'm just like, what is your mind like?
Yeah, so in this one it's ultimately kind of a worker placement game. You're placing these different workers onto this big central board, and once they go down, for the most part, they never move again.
Yeah.
And you're going to be covering up different symbols, and then to go to a certain symbol, like a little squiggly line, they're all kind of abstract shapes, you have to play a card that has that matching symbol. And that'll allow you to go there, and then you can do a task because each space has 3 different kind of actions you can do. And depending on what color you place there and all sorts of things, you might be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4 of those tasks and kind of work around. And you're doing this to gain resources like stone and corn and potato, and you can build statues. You can work on this. You're working down this hill, essentially. You can build stairs to work yourself down the hill. You can make offerings at a temple to work up this big temple track. You can go on conquest. There's all these different things you can explore. You can build a tapestry.
Yeah.
There's 1,000,001 things, but it's really cool.
It's really fun. It might end up taking over my favorite tea games kind of thing. Yeah, because I really like it. It is crazy thinky. It destroys your brain. It's super.
But once you get going, you can get going with it.
For sure,
you know
for sure.
Like, it's a lot, but it's once I got my first game in, and then we started playing it physically because we were taught. Once I played my first physical game, I was like, oh, now I'm starting to see it.
No, for
and now
sure,
I can start to do things.
It can clutch up your mind because there's so many options of places to go and stuff like that. But it is really, really fun. I like it a lot. Yeah, it's just kind of big and heavy and thinky, and it's really good. Tawantinsuyu is amazing.
It's really fantastic. We also played Merv, the Heart of the Silk Road.
Merv a couple times. Yeah, I like Merv a lot, man.
Merv
is a great game. This is a game where you're in the city of Merv, which is like the heart of the Silk Road, and it's just like it's got this really cool kind of action selection system where you have all these tiles in the center of the board. There's like 5 rows of 5 basically, and you place your meeple in one of the columns or the rows, and then you can activate one of the tiles in that row, and then you get resources based off what buildings are there and what buildings you decide to activate. And then there's like 5 different parts of the game that you can like play with basically. And it's one of those things where like you kind of have to choose 1 or 2 of them to like, this is what I'm going to do this game.
Specialize,
Spacing everything out a little bit wouldn't really do. But that's one thing I like about it is like, every time we've played it, I've always been like, I'm going to do this now because I didn't do this last time. I'm going to do this part of it now because I never did this last time. And every single time it seems very well balanced. It seems very even in terms of like, they all seem very viable ways to win. And it's gorgeous. It's got, tool art. It's got one of the prettiest boards ever. And it's just really, really, really fun. I like Merv a lot.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. It's just the action selection, the way you can build up, the way that I can activate your buildings essentially and get resources. You'll get a little bit of a bonus. There's just a lot of really neat stuff, and it looks incredible. We also played the Quacks of Quedlinburg in the same day we played Merv. They're basically the same game.
Basically the same game.
Quacks of Quedlinburg, as you know, is a
great.
Or if you don't know, it's a classic at this point in my eyes.
It's probably a modern classic
game. It's just a push your luck game. It's incredibly fun. You're pulling these little chits out of a bag and you're putting them into a cauldron to basically make a recipe, a brew of sorts or whatever. It's just kind of a fun, silly theme, but ultimately all those chips that you pull out and put on your board will have little powers associated with them. They might be good if they're played right after a different color, or you have these rubies, you might be able to spend a ruby to push that chip further down and stuff, and you're trying to go as long as you can, but there's these little snap peas, these little white ones, that if you have too many of those in your cauldron explodes, and you won't be able to get quite as much out of that round. You can at the end of the round buy more chips, and you can get points, and if your cauldron explodes, you have to choose buy chips or get points. So it's a little bit like, but it's not the end of the world. And this game is just like incredibly fun. It always remains fun because it's just like it's all simple enough that you're willing to push your luck, and if your luck doesn't go your way, you're not heartbroken over it because it's light enough that
it's light enough where it doesn't destroy you when like really bad things happen. And so like it's the perfect combination of like luck but light enough where it doesn't really matter that much, and it's just fun. It's just fun. That's what
incredible.
it is. Just pure fun.
It's sweet. Speaking of David Tursky and big brain games, I played Anachrony.
I'm sorry.
I quite liked it. It was really fun. I haven't played it in quite some time, so this was kind of a relearning the game. Like, obviously there's some familiar elements, but I was basically at square one. But you know what? I had enough in my brain from when we played a year and a half ago, whenever it was, that I was like, I was able to make more sense of it this time. The last time I played Anachrony, I was just like, I don't know what's going on.
First 2 times, I've been like, I don't know what the heck's going on in this game. Yeah.
This time I did better, and I actually squeaked out a win by like a point. It was a very close game, but this is a game where you are essentially playing with time, and you're traveling in time, and you are building up buildings and stuff, preparing for an apocalyptic event. Basically, a meteor comes and just destroys the planet.
Yeah.
So you're trying to kind of prepare for this event, and you have different factions that are slightly asymmetrical. And the world's just sort of like nuked out and horrible. So you have to go around in mech suits and stuff. There's all this kind of cool theme on it, but ultimately you're building up these buildings to generate resources, to work on these kind of super projects and things like that. But one thing you can do is you can slide through time. You can briefly slide through time to basically pay off resources that you've gotten in previous rounds. Like if you can...
It's very interesting.
You can basically warp in resources in every round, but then if you don't go back and eventually pay back those resources, you've created anomalies in the timeline and things like that, and you'll lose points. So you have to basically develop the ability to time travel and go back in time, pay back that gold that you got 3 rounds earlier. Now that you've kind of built up the stuff, you'll be able to generate more gold. So it's this wild
It's one of the coolest ideas for a game, for sure.
Yeah, you're essentially borrowing resources. So it's just all sorts of like really neat. Like Anachrony is one of the coolest games ever because it's just bonkers. The kind of theming and the way that it integrates and works mechanically is like really well done.
Yeah,
it's a high watermark, I think, for like highly thematic kind of Euro style games because it doesn't feel like it. But Anachrony is really cool, and I'd like to play it again now that I sort of like
I want to play it
understood ever so slightly more.
Yeah, that's how it is.
I was able to choose a direction. I just had a bunch of water. I was like, I had water all the time.
Water life.
All water all day. We also played Architects of the West Kingdom with the Age of Artisans expansion, which we hadn't done in some time.
We hadn't played it with the expansion some time. I do really like the expansion. Yeah. Architects of the West Kingdom was the first in the West Kingdom games, and still just it's so good. It's just so all 3 of the West Kingdom games are just so darn good.
It's a worker investment game.
Yeah, worker investment game where you're putting out workers, but you don't ever block spots. Everyone can go to all the same spots, with the exception of the black market. And you can put a worker out, and if you put another worker out there, you essentially get a better version of that action, whatever it is. You put a third worker out there later, you get another even better version of that action, more resources, whatever it is.
Right.
And it's really fun. And the Age of Artisans adds these really cool cards where you can make them either tools or like decorations. So you can add them to like your buildings to make them more decorative, which gives you like more points. You can add them to your apprentices to make them better at what they do and stuff like that. It's really
extra perk,
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a pretty small expansion in terms of like it doesn't massively change the game, which is a good thing.
But it does change it in some interesting ways. Like you can now stack people up in the cathedral, or the guild hall, excuse me. You can stack people up and stuff, and that's how you play out some of those adornments and things like that. And so it does a lot with a little.
Yeah, for sure. And then in the end, it's just Architects of the West Kingdom, which is just a great game. It's again, the West Kingdom trilogy is. I mean, like real talk. Is there a better trilogy out there of games?
There's not many trilogies, period, and I can't think of
or even like just series of games. I mean, like
I don't know.
It
might be the best,
especially considering how different they all are. Like, yeah, they're really good.
It's really
so Architects of the West Kingdom is great.
Yeah, it's really awesome. We also got a chance to play Carnegie, which is now on Kickstarter, at least at the time of the recording of this video. And it's on Board Game Arena, and a digitized, automated kind of version. It's a really good implement. I think they did a really good job, especially because it's a big game. In this game, you're playing, I guess, as Andrew Carnegie or Carnegie types. And
sure, you're all clones.
We're all versions of his life.
I'm his left arm.
Where he was a better person.
Mine's his right knee.
And in this game, you were trying to build up a network throughout the United States of different types of buildings. You're developing kind of your own factory or your own headquarters or whatever it is with different departments and stuff, which will ultimately unlock different types of actions you can do. You are ultimately trying to do charitable donations up on the top of the board that will give you access to end game points. Basically, it's like one, for example, that I got was for every building I built in the east section of the United States, I got 2 points at the end of the game. So I donated there and then made sure I built a lot in the east. So it's not a guarantee of points, but it's like I'll get rewarded.
You generally are
for
picking the
building-
ones that are going to give you the most points. Like,
Exactly.
I've been doing
And
a
you
lot
kind
of
invest
this.
in
I
that
should
part of the
probably do this. Yeah.
There's like all sorts of things you can do in this game where you can basically put workers, send them on missions out into the states and the different regions in the west and the south and such. And then as you pull them back off and bring them back to the department and stuff, they will generate income and things based off of all these buildings you build, the projects you do. I thought this game was incredible.
Yeah, you
we
really
played
liked
on Board
it.
Game Arena, which like is fantastic for its automation, but if you're
worst.
trying to learn a game,
It's the worst for learning games.
as Nick says, it's kind of
It's too automated.
hurtful in that it
Yeah.
automates everything because everything generates and does all your stuff for you so fast.
Yeah.
You don't know necessarily.
You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know exactly. That's the problem with like all board
It's a
games
good
that are
thing,
on
but
like Board Game Arena. It's great if you already know the game.
Yes, because you know what's
It's
happening.
horrible for learning games. I think it's horrendous. Again, depending on the game. Some games aren't, but like this, I not sure if I like Carnegie because one, I have a very hard time grasping board games when they're digital forms. Like learning board games digitally is really hard for me. And then two, this is a very big game. Three, it was on Board Game Arena, which means like there's so many parts. Like there's like you get income a lot of times throughout the game, and you get income from like all these little things. But the problem is Board Game Arena just goes,
gives you the total.
oh, you have $28 now, and I'm like, I don't know how I got that money, and so like the
Or how
problem
to
is,
get it again.
so yeah, so like, I don't know then how to like do stuff to like get more stuff, and so it's one of those things where like I'm 99% sure that when I play this game physically, I'm going to love it. I didn't like it digitally because I have a very hard time grasping games digitally, and Board Game Arena is horrible for learning games. It just, I personally
I,
think
for whatever
so.
reason, was able to put it together
You're
fairly
better
easily.
at learning digital games than me.
maybe I've been playing-
You always pick up games better than me digitally.
Yeah, and like, but with the income thing, what I did was like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get income, and I looked at all the stuff on my board because there's all these things on the board that will dictate kind of what you get. And I like added it all up. I'm like, okay, I think this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and then you got
If these numbers at the top end up this plus this, then that's what happened, and it did. And it's like that's how it works.
oh, okay,
But
now
I
I
had to
get
do
it.
the homework to figure that out.
Whereas in a normal game, you would be like, okay, I get $2 for this, I get and that's how you learn. But in Board Game Arena, you just don't learn anything, which is why it's great if you know the game, but horrible if you're trying to learn a big game. And so, like, I don't have much of an opinion on Carnegie because I just don't even feel like I've really played it. Yeah,
I love
so
it. I
it's
think
like
fantastic. I want to.
it's really pretty.
Super
I
pretty.
think I'm gonna like it, but I
that's what we're
honestly can't say. I have no idea.
Fair enough. It's great. You should get it. It's fantastic. Take my word for it.
It seems real cool.
And TBD on him. We also played Cartographers Heroes during our marathon.
Great.
Cartographers is fantastic. Cartographers Heroes just adds, if nothing else, like the region, the little expedition cards.
Yeah.
Exploration cards.
Just new
excuse me,
shapes.
Are new shapes, and so like, oh, this
all you
shape in the
need.
base game was a village, and now it's this. You know, like just that alone is
And
already
that'll,
great.
because I already feel like cartographers you can just play over and over and over and over again, regardless. And now it's like, oh, cool. Now there's different shapes.
sweet.
Cool. Slight bit of difference. That's great. You
I
know.
love it. It's just a little bit of variability. You can mix up the scoring thing with the new and the old game and basically choose which deck of exploration cards you want to use. The new monsters are great. The heroes are the leave it part. I'm like, I don't care about that. That's not super intriguing to me. But like literally everything else is awesome. So
Yeah.
Cartographers Heroes, if you like Cartographers, is great.
Yeah.
And we
You also get a
continue
new
to
map,
enjoy
which
it.
is cool.
Yeah, the
Like,
new
yeah.
map is great. And,
Sorry.
and there's like the map pack, which is super cool. So
Yeah.
like, all the stuff in Heroes is great except for the titular part to me.
Yeah. I'm very much all right.
Go figure. I also showed Karen Castles of Tuscany.
That's right. How'd you do?
I did horrible. She beat me bad. I did that.
To be fair, she usually crushes us.
She does. She does.
So
she's fantastic at picking up games quickly and just like smashing you straight away.
Yeah,
So
she really is.
this is sort of a card-driven sort of Ticket to Ride.
It's really good.
Mixed with Castles of
It's
Burgundy.
really good.
It's really fun. I love
It's
how
really
light and quick
good, yeah.
it is. In this, you're playing little sets of cards to put tiles out onto your little province or whatever, kind of a la Castles of Burgundy. You have to build out from a castle.
It feels like a sister to it, you know?
Yeah, big time. Like in this one, instead of like matching dice rolls and numbers, you just have to match colors of cards. And there's all these ways to work, and every time you play a little tile down, it'll trigger some sort of bonus. You can complete little regions to get points, and you kind of create this point income for you. There's 2-point tracks, a green one, which is every round you'll get whatever your green is transferred into red points, which are your actual endgame points. You build up this little point engine for yourself. Where in the last round, you might get 40 or 50 points or something, which is like very satisfying.
Yeah.
And it goes so fast.
It does. It's real quick.
Yeah, I think Castle of Tuscany is brilliant. I think it's
Yeah.
fantastic just for its speed. It's just a quick thing where it gives you some Castles of Burgundy feel.
Yeah, for sure.
But in a much quicker package.
And Castles of Burgundy also isn't long.
No.
You know what
it's
I
not
mean?
super
So it's
long
like
either. So it's like I'm happy to have both. And it's like, do I want to play with some cards and make my life easier? Do I want to like grind it out a little bit more on Castles of Burgundy and get into the dice mitigation? Do I want cards or dice? Either one is great. So that is Castles of Tuscany. We also played Chai. We
yeah.
opened up our marathon.
We did with Chai because it was early morning. It started like what 8 or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we started. We were drinking coffee. I've never, as Mike always says, I've never drinking tea while playing Chai.
I probably ought to someday, but I literally.
But I drink coffee almost every single time. Yeah. But Chai is great. As Mikey says, it makes board gamers because it's just such a cool. Even if you don't have the deluxe version, it's such a cool production, and it's a game where you're running a little tea shop and you are collecting. Resources in terms of different types of tea, like jasmine tea or ginseng, all these different things. And you got little pantry items like milk, sugar, cinnamon, that kind of stuff. And you're essentially trying to fulfill orders. You have a person who wants like 3 mint teas and a ginger and a thing of milk. And you're like, okay, and you have to gather all that stuff, and then you can essentially fulfill that customer, and you'll get points at the end of the game for doing so. And maybe they'll give you a little bit of a tip, which is great.
Oh, nice.
But it's super simple. It's very easy. I would say it's pretty much gateway level, maybe a little heavier, but depending on the people you're playing with. But it's it's very, very simple, and it just looks so cool. It's got such a great art style with like tons of diversity, and just like it's also just a nice, relaxing game where you're just like, okay, cool, I'm getting tea. The way you get the main ingredients has got this really cool kind of market system where you buy stuff and things like slide down. Yeah, it's really, really cool. And like you said, this is a game to bring out with new people because it's something they've never seen before, and it's just charming. It just works. And this is a game where it's like, it just, Mike says, it makes gamers. Makes gamers.
It just
Do you think Castles of Tuscany? Not making that many gamers.
It might,
depending on what kind of gamer they are. But like, it's again,
it's not as pretty as Chai, but it's not ugly.
No,
just the lion's cool.
The lion looks cool. Lion's cool. But Chai's great.
We also played Clank, a deck building adventure.
That's right.
We haven't played Clank in a hot minute and stuff, and you know what? It's still fun.
It's still
I don't need
great.
to play it very often anymore, but it's just fun. And we played on the water map, which continues to be my favorite.
It's the best map.
I think
it's the best map.
Just fun to go around the water and get scuba gear and stuff like that. So in this game, you are using your deck of cards as you're shuffling through and getting better and better cards to delve into a dungeon and steal treasure from a dragon.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. It's a really fun way for deck building to work.
Yeah.
And with all the expansions, they have different maps that add different cards and stuff that kind of become.
There's like huge 5 different boards now. Like it's like
there's a lot to explore. I really, really want to play Clank Legacy, man.
Me too.
I really want to do that.
Well, when the world opens up, we had our good friend Crook. We were kind of playing like, oh, we're gonna play all these Legacy games together, and then the world happens. Still trying to finish Scythe. Yeah.
One of these days we'll get through Rise of Fenris, but Clank continues to be super fun.
It's just fun. It's just fun.
It is. Every time we play it, I'm always just like, I really do like this game.
Because we play it.
We don't play very often.
We play it seldomly enough. Where I'm always like, am I over Clank? And then we play it. I'm like, no, I freaking love Clank. Yeah, it's just like it's one of those things where we play just seldomly enough. Where I'm always like, I'm not sure if I like this game, and then I'm like, oh no, I do.
But I'm glad every time we do.
Yes.
We also played Clans of Caledonia the other day for the first time in a little bit.
Good.
It's really solid.
This is a game that every single time. This is a game I always looked at. It's one of the things like now I think I just know my sensibilities better. Where I'm just like I was always like, oh, that looks boring, and now I'm just like. I should know better now. But it is so much fun. This is a really cool game where you're Scottish clans people and stuff like that. You're essentially
different clans.
You're farmers basically is what it is. There's no fighting in the game at all. But nonetheless, you're kind of making this little system, this little engine kind of thing where you are putting out people and like cows and sheep and like cheese factories and like little wheat fields and then like little whiskey barrels and stuff like that.
And production buildings.
Yeah, essentially little production buildings, and you're putting around all these different hexes. You always have to put stuff adjacent to each other, so you're kind of building out from wherever you start. And at the end of each round, you are going to be producing. So like your cows give you a milk. But if you have a cheese factory, you can take a milk. For every cheese factory, you can take one milk and turn it into a cheese. And cheese is like a refined good or whatever.
Yeah.
You have like raw goods and refined goods. And then essentially you have contracts, as you usually do in these kinds of games. You have contracts. It's like this one requires like 2 meat, 2 bread, and a thing of wool. And you're like, okay, cool. So you got to have all those things out there. So you can take the wheat fields and you have to have a bread factory so you can make it into bread. Or if you want to, there's a little market and you can just buy things straight up. If you buy things, it makes the price go up, a little stock market style. Yep. If you sell stuff, you can go sell stuff to get some money, drops the price down. And it's very simple in terms of like, everything you want to put out on the board has a price. Like a cow is like $8. But then every hex on the board has a price. So it's just that plus that. And then you can put it out there.
It comes down to money.
Yeah, so you just always need money. So you're always trying to like, okay, I'm going to go here and sell some cheese because I don't need it for a contract. And I'm able to get $10 and now I can put out another distillery or whatever like that. And it's pretty quick, especially 2 players, and it is so good. It's just so much. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's just a good time, man.
It's a blast.
How
we play it on stream? We should play it live. I don't think we played it on stream. No, we should play it soon. We'll play it soon. I don't know when, but we'll play it soon.
We're gonna play it real soon.
Check us out, twitch.tv.
Bam, be there. Clans of Caledonia. I'm always ready to say it. Was fantastic. We also played Cubitos, which is coming up soon or out now from AEG. It's coming up real soon.
This is contender for one of the best games of the year already.
It's a fantastic racing game where / push your luck game. We were talking about this the other day with someone. We were talking about Quacks of Quedlinburg, straight up push your luck and stuff. And Cubitos is very much has a similar heart to it. Where it's fun, but because you're doing this racing element and there's more strategic choices to make, because ultimately it's a deck building game but with dice. Because you're buying different types of dice that as you roll them, they're going to give you all sorts of bonuses and things. And ultimately what you want is you want these dice to help you move your little racer around the track and be the first one to complete the track. Yeah. It's a racing game at its very heart. And it's just fun because the way it works is if you roll the dice, so long as you roll one success, meaning one dice phase, and most of the dice you have, there's like one or two of the sides have faces.
Yeah, they're mostly misses.
The rest are blank.
Yeah.
Most are misses. As long as you roll at least one hit, you can keep going.
Yeah.
But if you roll a miss, once you have a certain amount of dice, if you roll all blanks, you bust.
Yeah.
And you're done for that round.
And it sucks.
Which isn't the end of the world.
No, but it does suck.
Oh, and so it creates good choices of like, if this roll works out,
and you're like, I have 6 more dice. They all only have one side. You're like, it's a 1/6 chance. It's a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. That's not how dice work. And so you roll them, and you're just like, oh my gosh.
And the way it works is like you have this set of dice, and then you have I think 7 different powers that each of like this white die that has cats on it. They have 7 different alternate versions of this cat power. So the variability and the combinations of powers you can have are wildly different. And the game does a great thing where it takes you through and gives you kind of suggested sets of cards to play and with a certain track. And you can play through like a Grand Prix where you're going through all these different races. And then you can just mix and match these card powers. Yeah. But these dice, sometimes they're really good and they combo together. So you want to have red and white dice. And if they trigger at the same time, all this great stuff happens. There's just a bunch of fun
And there's like 6 or 7 different kinds of dice. So like you're just trying to figure out what to buy. And they're all really good in their own way. And they have different costs. It's just, it's fun. Really
it's ultimately a racing game. It's just really, really neat.
Yeah.
Cubitos is fantastic. Don't mind me. I'm letting my face open my phone. And Cubitos is just fantastic. I also played Dune Imperium.
Sorry.
It's great, man.
I haven't played it. I don't know. I've Dune Imperium. I just love talking crap about it. I have not played it. I'm sure it's wonderful. I just love being like, the game's crap. Yeah, just because everyone loves it. Like, it just entertains me. The game's trash.
That's why he hasn't played it, because he knows it's trash. Why would he play it? He knows it's trash.
Why would I play with trash, man?
I know that.
I know that this is trash. No, I'm sure it's wonderful, honestly.
Dune Imperium's a really cool game. It's another deck building game. It's passable.
It's passable.
Deck building mixed with worker placement game.
Which is a thing, man. That's the thing.
It's the thing.
That's the thing. I'm okay with it. It's 2 of my favorite mechanics.
You have like a couple of workers. You might get a third, and you have some cards and stuff. But this does a really neat thing with the cards. So you can basically play a card that will have certain symbols on it, and that will allow where your worker can go. Your worker has to go to one of the matching symbol spaces that matches your card, and they're kind of in regions, essentially.
Yeah.
So you can go in this region or this region. Okay. And you place your worker down, you get to do some stuff. You're getting spice. It's very much in Dune, so you have Solari spice, and water's a big thing. All the stuff you'd see from Dune, all the characters.
That Dune? Worms?
Huh?
Worms?
Yeah.
That's Dune?
Yeah.
Okay.
Giant worms, riding the worms.
I get Dune and Doom mixed up.
Right. There was sci-fi stuff, yeah. Dune is the ride the worms.
Okay,
and
cool.
stuff.
That's
There's
Dune.
all the
sand, right? It's all sand, right?
Factions, yeah.
Okay.
So there's all these different factions and stuff you can play as that give you little.
Can you play as the worms?
No.
Trash game. Why would you play a true Dune game where you can't play as the worms?
Don't answer to anybody.
If you can't play as the worms, your game is trash.
You can ride it.
Worm ride people.
No. That'd be
false. Incorrect.
Anyway, the point is, you're playing these things and you have these cards, and then when you kind of pass all the cards you haven't played out, there's like little bottom effects. And so you do kind of a passing round, essentially, where you'll trigger all the stuff from the bottom of your card.
Yeah.
So it's this cool thing of like, do I want to hold this card back for the bottom, or do I want to use it for, it's kind of playability.
It's a great thing.
There's some really cool stuff with it. And then there's like kind of really like simple kind of abstracted combat where it's sort of just like majorities and stuff like that, which give you things each round, and it's a kind of a race to 10 points. And it's cool. And like, I don't know like Dune well. I know a little bit about it, but it does seem to incorporate some cool elements of like the story and stuff in a ultimately kind of a Euro deck building game, but it's cool. I think it works really well. And like the factions you play as and the abilities they give you makes sense given the characters that they're based off of and things like that. So I see why it's done quite well. It's a solid game.
It seems really cool.
That's trash.
That's absolute trash, yeah.
Nick, we also played Faiyum.
Faiyum's not trash. Faiyum's fun.
not trash.
Faiyum's, it's weird in a good way. As we were playing it live the other day, and someone was like, "Weird in a good way." That's freedom freeze, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of a good point." Like a lot of very odd ideas coming out of that man's head. But I'll tell you, so Faiyum is this really cool game where you are in Egypt and you're essentially building out buildings or building out stuff on this board.
Developing land.
You're kind of developing land, and you're developing for the pharaoh. So it's one of those situations where if I build this building, or if I put this thing down the board, it's not mine. Everything is the pharaoh's. So it's like one of those things where it's like this kind of situation where you put stuff out, but then other people can like use it, and you're like, I needed to use that building, you know, kind of thing. But it's got this really, really interesting, not deck building mechanic that's really, someone pointed out, it's kind of a programming game where basically you'll have your hand of cards, everyone starts with the same deck of cards, and they allow you to like put out people on the board.
Do some really basic
They allow you to
things.
clear crocodiles because, you know.
Because you got to drain the swamp, man.
You gotta drain the swamp, hashtag drain the swamp. And then you can put out buildings, do all this different stuff. But then, so as you play a card, you get to do the thing, card goes in your discard pile, but you never, ever, ever shuffle your discard pile, and you can never rearrange your discard pile for the most part.
The order is very important.
And then eventually when you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm kind of done all the stuff I need to do. I've either used all my cards or I've used all the cards that I want to. You then administrate. And what that means is that you then will get some money. Money's usually how you buy cards and stuff like that. And then you will get the top 3 cards in your discard pile back into your hand.
In order, yeah.
In order, and then you can pay $1 to get the next one. And then you can pay $1 to get the next one. But you can't ever go to like, oh, I'm gonna go grab this card. You have to take the ones on top. So it's one of those things where you're like, I don't want to use this card now because it's gonna get buried. And so, but at the same time, you want to use a lot of the cards in your hand because you get more money when you administrate depending on how few cards you have in your hand. So you don't really want to have cards in your hand. And it's this programming of trying to keep the stuff you really, really want continually coming back to your hand while kind of burying the stuff you don't necessarily want. And then you're constantly buying new cards. Yeah. And those cards, when you buy a card, goes directly into your hand so you can immediately use it. But it's this really difficult puzzle to try to like, it's like hand management to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Because you are having to really manage your hand.
It's wild, and the way that the market works, all the cards are numbered.
It's like Power Grid style,
Power Grid style, and the lowest numbered cards are going to be the ones that are in the like current market, the ones you can actually buy right now. And then as the numbers get higher, it kind of moves toward end game. You start to do bigger projects and stuff that they're a little more reliant on the land being developed and such. Yeah. So as you go, you're going to be kind of progressing through the game and getting these cards, but the current market could be that like the 4 lowest cards that are available right now are like some of the highest cards in the game. So it's just like it's
Power Grid style, where it's like if the next card you draw, if like all the cards are here in the 40s, next card you draw is in the 30s, it'll go to the front of the line and it pushes everything back. So certain cards that are available might then become unavailable. Yeah. And then they might come available again. It's wild. Super cool. And again, that management of your hand is so interesting. It feels so different. Yeah, it's really, really fun. And this is, again, it's only available in the BGG store. So if you're looking for it, that's where to find it.
Yeah, check it out. It's really neat.
Yeah, it's really very interesting.
Yeah, we really like it a lot. We played Fields of Arle, which we hadn't played since
since the
November
Thanksgiving. Yeah, when we were back in Sacramento. Yeah,
went back to Sacramento a while ago. And Fields of Arle is a 2-player specifically, or solo. And then with the expansion, you can play it up to 3. Uwe Rosenberg kind of semi-autobiographical, big farming game.
Peat bogs
and stuff. So in this one, you have these peat bogs in this land, and you're trying to develop that with different fields and forests and things that will produce resources.
Peat monsters.
You can make peat monsters. It's pretty cool.
It's like Snowman, but it's made out of peat.
It's basically Adventures of Pete and Pete, the board game.
See, the best part about peat monsters is you create them, but peat you have to condense down, so you can just light the whole thing on fire.
Exactly, which is great. And so in this one, you're doing this cool action kind of round-around action selection. So you're kind of, it's in the fall or summer.
It's kind of like viticulture style, where it's like each season you can only be on this side, and then we move to this side, and then you can do it, and you kind of go back and forth.
Right. You're kind of going from like summer to winter to summer to winter. Yeah. Certain actions are only available in each season, and you're trying to build up different buildings to give you all sorts of perks and stuff.
Build out your land.
You're trying to build out your land. You're trying to drain the peat bogs and get rid of the peat, cut the peat out to make it usable land for you, get different types of animals, and just do a bunch of farming stuff. It's just super uve. But it's really cool. It's really fun to explore and kind of like the way the seasons work. And as you prepare for winter, you need to have stuff available to burn, like you said, to stay warm. And then as you're going into summer, you don't need to worry about that because it's about to become warm. And so you're trying to balance resources and all these things in a really cool, interesting way that's very familiar, very Uwe Rosenberg, but in a really cool 2-player package because it's a big 2-player game.
Yeah,
but,
if you're looking for a hefty 2-player game, that's not like a big like War of the Ring or Star Wars Rebellion. You're looking for a big hefty 2-player Euro game. Fields Arle for sure. Yeah,
it's really really fun. Highly recommend. We also played, or I think I played on Yucata, I think it was, or played Hadara.
Oh really?
Played some Hadara. Which is a fun kind of Civ-themed game with cards, and you're going to build a tableau of cards in front of you in different colors and stuff. So there's like red ones are going to be kind of military. They're going to boost you up your military track, and then blue is culture, green is agriculture. There's purple, which is like technology.
I'm going to make a game someday, and like blue is going to be the military.
Why not?
Just to mess with people's mind. Just to freak people out.
It's going to be awesome. Then yellow, of course, is money and income. And you're basically going to be working up these different tracks, which is really fun. You're going to get your income track, your military, your food to feed your people and stuff. And then every half round, essentially, you're going to get income. So you're going to be able to get a bunch of money based off where your income track is, which helps you buy more cards. You're trying to buy these cards. And it's just a game that I enjoy because it's just satisfying to kind of develop your technology and basically get all these boosts on tracks. And then as your culture is higher, you get to carve more statues, which will give you boosts in tracks. Everything gives you a boost in tracks and boost in tracks. And it's just satisfying to like get like 25 money every round or get 30 military and stuff. And you feel like in that game that you've done a lot.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, there's all sorts of ways to score for the little... your little conquests and stuff you've done, you get points for the statues you've carved. You get points. The cards themselves have points.
It's
so it's this point-sality, Civ-themed game that I just
But it's a cool little tableau builder. I like it a lot. Yeah, it's cool.
It's cool. And the way that each half round works is interesting because they work very differently. In the first one, you're all drafting each color cards. And then in the second half of the round, you're buying stuff from discard piles. And now you can buy blue multiple times.
You can also like not draft something and then hope to buy it later.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really cool. Yeah.
So it's just like really interesting, fun things to do in a kind of a light-ish just package.
Yeah, it's a nice weight. Yeah.
Yeah. We also played Honey Buzz.
Honey Buzz is good.
Honey Buzz is good, man.
It's cute. It's good.
The first game I played, I didn't really know what I
felt.
We played a couple things wrong, and I was just like, not that. Like I enjoyed it, but I
wasn't sure after the first play
what I should do in the game.
After the first play, I was just like, I liked this. I don't know how much I liked this. And then after we played it again, I was like, oh no, I like this a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can get like swifty with it, man.
You can
like
swift
do
it up.
Cool stuff.
Hashtag swifty
so
with
in this game, you are bees, and you're developing a hive, your own colony. You got little beeples. And you're basically drafting these tiles by putting workers out. And you're getting these tiles, which are going to have different icons on them. And as you create these cells, they're kind of like domino hex tile things. So create these little hexagonal empty spots, these little cells. And when you create a cell that's empty, you will trigger all the actions that are around that empty cell. So you kind of do this thing, you put this tile down, and then you do like 4 actions. And you can choose the order that you do them all. And you are ultimately trying to get a honey production system going, get new bee workers and stuff, and you want to start producing honey and pollen to then fulfill contracts. Yeah. Because the bees have learned economics in this game. And it's amazing art, like looks fantastic.
It's real good.
So they've learned economics, and they realize like we can sell product to all these like woodland creatures that are around. And then so you start fulfilling contracts, given different types of honey. And there's some really fun puzzly elements because the little empty cells that you make will have different borders of red and white. And depending on the order and like how those red and whites distribute, you will create different types of honey. Yeah. Then you have to go with your little forager bee and get this little tile that will allow you to then start producing that type of honey. Then you can, again, fulfill contracts, or you can just sell honey to the market straight up for whatever the current market price is, and then the market price will drop because you're kind of flooding the market with that product. Yeah. So there's some like really neat
It's really cool
stuff.
But pretty light in terms of like the rules and stuff like that. Yeah, like it's really, really good. Like I say, great production, great art. Give us a random bee fact.
A random B fact. Okay, well, they have 3 sections of the body. There's a head, thorax, and the abdomen. Fun thing, abdomen's on their butt. Boom.
That's funny.
And then an arthropod.
Mike worked at a kids museum, so he knows a lot about bees and such.
Arthropod, all right? I'll tell you this, another fun fact. Every single bee you've ever seen, ever in the world, is a female.
Yeah, because the males are just there for...
They don't ever fly.
They're just there for, like, the queen's like, come on.
That's it. They can't take care of themselves. They can't do anything. They'll never go out in the
worthless.
They have no stingers.
Men are worthless.
They have no ability. So every bee you've ever seen ever is a
doing all the work. Love it.
All the work. Bam.
All right, so Honey Buzz.
Honey
Good
Buzz.
stuff.
Rip. Okay, we also played Imperial Settlers, Empires of the North.
We did. We did play also during our little marathon, our little 12-hour Bing Bong Con marathon. Yeah, it's still great. We still love it. It's still awesome. We have all the expansions, I think, that are out for it now.
I think so.
And it's just at this point, there's like 12 different factions. And it's just one of the things where I'm just like, give me a random faction. I'll just play as that one. Because we don't play any of them often enough where I'm like, oh, I now know this faction. Yeah. So it's always a little bit of discovery. And it's just like, it's a lot like Imperial Settlers. But it's like, in this case, everyone has their own faction. You all have a unique deck that's just for that one. There's no common cards or anything like that. It's just so good. We've talked about it a bunch. I mean, it was both of our number 3 games of all time. It's really, 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 really fun, and we like it a lot. Imperial Settlers, Empires of the North.
It's fantastic. Check it out right now. I also played It's a Wonderful World on this website called GamePark.com, game-park.com, which is
the only game they got, right?
At the time, yeah. So it's kind of like another board game arena where it sort of automates things for you. But this one only had It's a Wonderful World, and I tried it, and it's done really well. It's very pretty. It's very well laid out. It's one of those things that I'm like, as you're doing stuff, it made a lot of sense. Like I could see what's going on. So it wasn't as automated as Board Game Arena, but it was in a good way.
Whole purpose is like, it's not going to be pretty, but it's going to work very efficiently.
Yeah.
That's the entire purpose of Board Game Arena.
And It's a Wonderful World on this other site showed its homework enough where it was easier to follow. Yeah. So It's a Wonderful World is a drafting game, card drafting game, where you're hoping to build these different cards into your tableau, which are going to give you production. And you can produce different types of resources in order. So you produce like these white resources, then black, then blue, then green, then purple, or one of the other ones. Anyway, I didn't even get the order right, but the order, yellow's in there. And you're going to be producing these resources. And as you produce these resources, you can put them on other cards that you have in this kind of construction tableau. Yeah. You have to put the matching resource on thing to build it, which gives you more production. It might give you, and then certain cards will give you access to end game points. Like for every yellow card you've built, you'll get a point at the end of the game. So, I'm going to try to build a bunch of these yellow cards, these kind of income cards. These kind of money or yellow resource-based cards and stuff. So it's all it is like drafting cards to try to get the right set of stuff built to kind of hyper-focus on a certain area, ideally, and get these kind of endgame scoring. We each have like a little faction, which will give you a starting point. Like there's these little financier tokens you can get. And at the end of the game, for every financier I had, I'd get a point. And that's my starting faction. So I knew from the beginning of the game, like, I'm going to try to get these financiers. And then I got 2 other cards that also gave me a point for every financier I had. So now I'm getting like 3 or 4 points essentially for every financier. So I went hyper-focused. I'm like, I want every card that I build gives me a financier, and I want to get any cards that give me endgame scoring for financiers and try to like focus in on that. So it's a really cool drafting game that I really enjoy, and I would love to try it more players because it'd be cool to have more cards moving around. Of course, yeah. But a 2-player works really well, and on that Game Park, I hope there's more games on there because that was really well done.
I hope so. I mean, more and more online ability to play games is great. Yeah.
We played Kingdom Rush, Rift in Time, which is based off the Kingdom Rush app series.
Yeah, which you've played a little bit. I haven't played the Kingdom Rush the app.
Kingdoms and Ash.
I really like Kingdom Rush. It's a game that you're kind of like, okay, it's a game based off an app, but it's actually really, really fun. And it's a nice, very, very truly like co-op kind of puzzle where you essentially have these like trays that have cards on them that are going to have a bunch of little monsters on them.
There's like
little hordes. And they're basically going to go through your kingdom, and there's all different shapes and sizes of them depending on what scenario you're playing. And essentially, there are spots on the side of like the path that they're just conveniently walking down, where you can put essentially attack cards. And your attack cards are going to put out like polygonal tiles out, and you're essentially trying to cover up the monsters on these cards. But again, they're all dispersed all differently on all the different cards in weird ways. And there's all different kinds of attack, where ones will be like, oh, can attack, if you put the card this way, it can attack this one, and also can do a little bit of attack on this card over here. So how you orient the card based off of where the card is actually pointing really matters, because that dictates where you can put different attacks. Some have one really big attack, some have a bunch of like little pepper shot attacks. And on top of that, everyone has certain places that they can put cards. You can't just put cards anywhere. Yeah. And it's really cool, and you basically want to kill the enemies before they eventually leave your kingdom, because then they're attacking you, essentially. You're attacking your realm or whatever. But it's really, really cool, but it's really cooperative, because basically if you have a card that you either don't want to use or decide not to use, you then pass it to the next player, and it gets upgraded to the next level automatically. You don't have to pay for the upgrade. And so the cool thing is, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to use this card. I'm going to give it to you. And you're constantly swapping cards back and forth, and you actually have to do that because there are these things called portals that come out, which are like kind of like big bads. And if a portal ever escapes, you just immediately lose. Yeah. But the thing is, to even hit a portal, especially the last portal, you have to have a level 3 card. You can only get a level 3 card by trading cards.
Yes, you can buy level 1 and 2.
But you have to trade 2 to 3. So like you have to do it, and it really forces you to be cooperative and being like, okay, I'm not going to use this. I'm going to give it to you so that way you can do this next time. And it's really, really fun. And it's a game that, it's a game you're like, okay, it's based off an app, cool. But we backed it a long time ago on Kickstarter. I was like, this actually looks kind of cool. And then we played it the first time, and I was like, okay. And then we played it again recently, and I was like, okay, no, I actually really like this. I like this kind of puzzle.
With the polyominoes like makes it really satisfying.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Really challenging.
Yeah, and I'm excited to like kind of get more into the abilities, because everyone has special abilities and stuff like that. And so it's a really cool game, honestly.
Yeah, it's super fun. I think it's awesome. Yeah. We also played Medium during our marathon, which is a fun party game.
Yeah, it's like a car game. Yeah,
it's Mind Meld, which is kind of just a fun party type game that you can do.
Real quick, let's play right now.
Okay. Oh, we're just out of nowhere?
Yeah. Okay. Step ladder.
Okay.
Headphones.
Step ladder and headphones. Step ladder and headphones. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Black.
Boom mic.
You said boom mic?
Yep.
And I said black?
Yep.
One.
Okay. But that's basically what it is. And then from there, you try and say the same thing. So it's really fun.
So you have these cards that will give you a topic like fruit and robot.
I should
have to think like, what's the middle of fruit and robot? Obviously, it's SpongeBob Robot Pants, right? Or whatever.
Boom.
And you're going to say 1, 2, 3, try to say the same thing at the same time. And if you don't say the same thing at the same time, now whatever you each said becomes your new prompt, and you're going to try to get to the medium. You're trying to find the medium between the two prompts. What's the midpoint between these things? And the game just gives you those prompts and stuff. And if you're playing in a big group setting, what you're going to do is playing with the person on your right and then the person on your left as you move around, is sort of that kind of lower score is your score thing. I think that's how it works.
You also remember score.
You can just play for fun and stuff. And so we played it during our stream. We just had a laugh with it, flipping all these cards and seeing if you can mind meld, and it's just a good time. Yeah. Medium is really fun.
It's a good one.
We also played Omen, A Reign of War.
That's right. We played this during the marathon too. Yeah.
2-player battle game.
Card game. Yeah.
Area majority game. In this game, you're gonna be getting these cards. You can draw cards and stuff, and then pay to play them out on these different 3 cities on kind of your side or your opponent's side of the city. They're playing cards, and there's different types. There's like soldiers and leaders and oracles, which have oracle abilities and stuff. There's beasts, which are kind of powerful. Some cards have the bottom effects. You can play for the kind of thing onto the city. You can play for the bottom effect and then discard it and stuff. You can mess with your opponents, make them discard cards, get rid of their money, destroy cards on their side. And then if a certain amount of cards are in any one of the 3 cities, that city will become war-torn, and then it's a majority of whoever has the most strength in that city takes this tile, which will be worth 2 points, or you can use the ability on the backside, which is pretty powerful, but decreases its value to 1 point. And once you go through those 2 of the stacks in those cities, the game ends. You kind of tally up and stuff. There's these feats you can get by, if you draw 5 cards in a turn, you'll satisfy this god's feat and stuff. So it's just a kind of a fun little game where you're messing with each other and trying to get some things.
It's a quick little game,
Quick little game. I thought it was neat. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. And I think there's a bunch of different Omen things out there.
I think so, yeah.
So that's the one we played, is A Reign of War, specifically. Nick, we also played some Paladins of the West Kingdom. We played it with...
we played it the other day.
The new expansion that's coming out.
The new expansion. So make sure to check out our social media, because we'll be playing with the expansion again live. We played... The new City of Crowns expansion was going to be on Kickstarter February 16th, I believe. Yes. We're going to be playing it again live at some point during the campaign. We're not exactly sure when yet. But we played it during Tabletop Live Network over this last weekend. And it's a really cool expansion. And Paladins is great. It's great. But the expansion is really, really cool. It essentially adds 2 new actions for the most part, where you can go out and you can essentially get these cards. And one type of card will allow you, has essentially two abilities. You can use either one. One allows you to do an action, but it gives you like a big boost. So it's like, oh, you can do a free fortify action, but your fortification is like, your influence is like +3. Yeah. So it's like a really cool way to get an action done and get some like virtual attribute level just for that one action, and that you don't also have to pay for. We have to pay money to get that card, but that's the only thing you have to pay for. You don't have to
pay any of the provisions or,
It's so cool, but then on the bottom of those cards, if you don't want to do that, you can then keep that card, and it has a little bit of set collection. And the set collection is basically going to give you points at the end of the game. / if you get 3 of the same type of icon, you then get the special card that'll essentially allow you to get a worker at the end of every phase, at the end of every round rather, which is really cool. And and then it's got this other muster action where you can move this little king dude around on these cards and get those cards and maybe get some more workers, some more bonuses. It's just ways to get more stuff, do more stuff. Awesome. And it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
And then there's new King's Order cards and that kind of stuff, which is like
cool stuff that gets added, and it keeps all of the rest of Paladins intact and stuff. Super neat. So do check it out when we play it again.
It's really, really fun.
I think it adds a lot of really fun elements. Yeah. It gives you slightly more flexibility in ways. Like I said, you can do these actions with these kind of boosts, which maybe helps when you're getting to the higher level of those actions where it becomes 3 provisions. It gets expensive. You're like, I can do this, spend my 1 silver I have left over to do this cool fortify or whatever. It's really neat. Really fun. Opens up a lot of options, which is cool. We also played Praga, Caput, Regni.
We did.
I don't know if I got close to saying that right, but Prague. It's about Prague. It's about building up Prague. In this game is a Vladimir Suki game where you are doing there's this cool action selection system, this action crane you'll pick a tile from.
It's more of an action cog.
An action cog, yeah, you're right.
I was expecting like a crane.
Old-timey cranes were just big cogs, really. I mean, they were all built off cog technology.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Which is fairly new at the time. So an action cog. And you're going to pull off one of these little tiles from it. It's going to present 2 action types. And whatever tile you take, you can do one of those 2 actions on your turn, which is going to be building buildings, building up a wall, upgrading tiles so that your actions, when you select those actions, you get better versions of those actions. You can walk down the King's Road, which will give you all sorts of perks and things. You have to spend eggs there because they used egg to help build this bridge, the Charles Bridge, right?
Charles Bridge.
Charles Bridge?
Charles
Cathedral?
Charles Bridge.
Charles and Charles Bridge. And so you're doing all these different things, and there's it's just fun because it's kind of a bonus-tastic game. Because when you take a tile from that action cog, there's gonna be a little bonus on the cog itself that will trigger. You might get some gold, you might get some stone to help with your building up of things. You might get access to, there's like S's, so that if you're building a building that round, you can build one from the special tiles, which are a little bit better, but you can only do those if the bonus that you took was the special bonus. So there's all these kind of fun ways to work bonuses in. When you build a wall, there's different things on the edge of those tiles that if you make matches with stuff, you can get these little blue or these red tokens, or you can get a bonus window or a bonus, some victory points, or bump up this track, or do all these things. And when you get this much stone, you get this bonus. There's all these like little bonuses. So it's really fun. Yeah. You can develop technologies which make your actions better as you go. There's a lot of fun stuff to explore in this game, and I just want to play it again because it's just like, man,
after the first play, I'm like, okay, I need to play this again and try to get more of this in my. It's very fun. I was like, okay, it's like one of those things where like, it's one of very much those games where you learn the game, you're like, okay, I know what I can do. I have no idea what I should do, and it's one that you're just gonna have to play it once or twice to be like, oh, now I kind of see what I want to start doing. But it's like the rules aren't too bad. It's just like I'm just like I don't know what I should be doing here. But it's really fun.
No action's crazy complicated, but there are a lot of things you can do. So it's figuring out a strategy. And that's what we did. I kind of in the first game, I was just like, I'm just going to sort of try to do this a lot and see what happens. Bless you, sir.
Woo! Praga.
Jump cut. We also played the Prodigals Club, Nick.
Prodigals Club's great. Another Vladimir Suki game, actually.
Hey, we're on the Vlad.
We're on the Vlad life. And so this was my number 2 game of all time when we did our top 100. I really love this game. This is a game where you're trying to be a horrible person. We talked about it a whole bunch of times. You're trying to lose an election, lose all your friends, lose all your money. At the end of the game, whatever the one you did the worst in, that's going to be your score for the whole game. So you really need to do everything. Yeah. And it's like the epitome of a game where like when you're in the third, there's 5 rounds in the game. When you're in the third round, you're like,
you're so
there's
far away.
No way I'm going to be able to do this. And you always end up pulling it off where your score is always like pretty good. And it's so fun. The 3 different portions of the board, the election, the money, and the friends, are all very different, but you have to do them all. So it's just this constant balance of trying to get everything done, trying to line things up so they work. It's just so much fun. I find it so enjoyable. It's like a thematic Euro game. It just rocks. I love it so much.
It's so fun. We also played Raja the Ganges, the Dice Charmers, kind of on a whim to fill out some time at the end of a stream.
We also played on Yucata.
And we play on Yucata, which works really well on Yucata. Again, Yucata is kind of another version, yucata.de, so it's like a Dutch, or German
Deutschland
board game arena.
Yeah.
And it works really, they have some great games on there, so do check that out. But Raja the Ganges, the Dice Charmers, is a dice version of Raja the Ganges, which is combo-tastic roll and write. Super duper fun. It feels very much like Raja the Ganges, where you're racing to get your tracks across, but does some like distinct things in the way that it all works, the way you're working up and down the river, and just everything can potentially trigger a bonus. And it's just really fun to play. Like you just feel like, even if you don't win, you're like, at some point in that game,
I gotta do something real cool.
I pull off a move that was amazing.
Yeah, it's
like,
really
it's
satisfying.
Yeah. So we love it. It jumps right up there to one of my favorite rolling rights.
If you like rolling rights, check it out. It's incredible. Yeah.
It's so good. We also played Remember Our Trip.
Yeah, that's right. We played with Karen.
Yeah, we played Remember Our Trip with Karen during our marathon.
Again, this is one of those games this game is so weird in a good way.
Yes, weird in a good way.
So interesting and different.
So strange. So it's a game where you are collectively trying to remember where you went in a city. In either
Tokyo or Singapore?
I think so, yeah.
Or no,
Kyoto, Singapore, and I think it's Kyoto.
It might be Kyoto,
It might be wrong. Sorry about that if we're wrong. Singapore is one of them anyway. That's the one we played. And you are basically getting these different tiles, these little tokens rather, each turn. And there's going to be a card that dictates the shape that you have to put these tokens in. You might get 2 of them, and they need to go in this diagonal within a range of 4 spaces. So now on your little board, you have to put them in a diagonal, and you're trying to basically make different polyomino shapes that like different buildings need. Like hotels are like in this big L. So if I get these 4 things on my board that make this, and they're all the hotel tiles, that means I remember that there's a hotel there. And then you get a matching bonus if what you put in matches what's on the central board. And the way it works is that if I'm the first person to put anything in these, it's kind of like Battleship, like in A3, B3, C3, and C4, that makes that shape. If none of those are covered up on the main board, I get to put a tile down that says that's where a hotel is. And now that is the reality we agreed to, is that was where that was. That hotel was there. And so now Nick's challenge is maybe to make sure his board matches where that hotel is, because we have confirmed that memory.
But I might have, on my own board, already started to put some shops there. And I'm like, no, that's where the shops were.
That's not how I remember it. So it plays with this idea of memory.
Yes.
Because people are basically misremembering stuff, because on their board, which represents your memory, it's like, well, I have a park here. That can't have been a shop. That was a park.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
and so it's just
it's so fun.
Trippy, dude. Saucy and Sashi. It's really interesting game. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, really interesting.
I played the most maddening game of Scythe of all time.
I've heard that.
Scythe Digital works well when it works, but it has some incredibly glaring problems that just don't get fixed with, like, we've complained about it before, I'm sure, where if you do an encounter and it says, like, I'm going to pay $2 for 4 wood, for whatever reason, whatever asinine reason, you can unselect all the wood you just paid for and not take it, and there are no undos. And so I played a game with a buddy online where we each made a couple of those gaffes, which are just like
And you will do it at least once or twice a game.
Yes. It's like every game I've played, someone makes a mistake like that, because it's just confusing. And it's like with something like that, I'm like, I don't even know why that would ever be an option. It makes no sense. It's incredibly frustrating, and it ruins games. So I played the worst game ever of it, partially because of some of those issues, and then just having a bad game. So it doesn't make me hate Scythe, but I hated that game of Scythe.
Yeah, Scythe Digital, I've liked less and less because every single time I play it, I always do one of those mistakes where I unselect something and then can't go back, because again, it's not intuitive at all.
It is confusing.
And
like
it's
the way
just
you're moving
like
people around. Like I did that once where I moved someone, and I'm like, I only want to move them half the movement. I think that's done, and I didn't know if I should click on something, so I clicked end movement, and then it just ended my turn. I'm like, okay, well now I know that means end all of your movement.
Yeah,
but like I didn't know.
It's both great and not great, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah,
but
so
Scythe is great.
Scythe is great, and it didn't change the game itself, but it changed my opinion maybe of the app. So we also played Spas Bass.
We played a little bit of Shy Pluto.
We came into the Shy Pluto.
Yeah, a little bit.
The first Shy Pluto game, which is really fun. Space Base is fantastic, and the Shy Pluto first game was really interesting. I'm excited to. It's a cool way to roll out some like modular expansion elements where you kind of go through a story to introduce all the things. Then from there you can sort of play with the parts you like, which is cool. So we played some Spas Mass.
Great.
I had a chance to play Trismegistus.
That's right.
And I don't think it's the game for me.
I don't think it is. I can tell you right now, it's not the game for me.
We played it a couple times now, and it's like a big heavy. It's another David Tursky. Just heavy game where you are thematically super cool.
Yeah.
Where you're like you're trying to like do alchemy and stuff like that, and you're trying to work on these experiments, and it's really neat. But it's just like a tight game. There's a lot of like really specific nuance to it, where it's like, well, if you're transmuting materials, you have to go from this pot to this pot. That's all you can do, and so it's all based off like the color of your die dictates where you can go. And so like there's all these things where I'm like, man, if I was a much smarter person, I think I would love the puzzle that all this is. But I'm simply not, and it's just too much. And so I don't think it's, I've played it a few times now, I'm like, I just don't think it's for me, man.
Yeah, that's okay.
Don't think it's for me.
I'm in the same boat. I played a couple times.
But thematically and stuff, what you're doing is really neat.
It's really cool,
so I want that exact theme in a more accessible game.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been like, all right, like, yeah, I don't think it's the game for me. That's okay.
What are you going to do? Lastly, we played War of the Ring.
We did play War of the Ring again. We played
it
it
a couple times this month.
We played it twice this month, actually.
I'm enjoying it, man. It's really fun.
Me too. It's really fun.
We've actually played it enough now in close succession.
We just kind of
know what I'm doing, which is really neat. It's really fun to do.
Yeah, we're gonna do a playthrough video of it because we just want to. We're gonna do one here, and it's gonna be so just know that's coming up. So hopefully this coming month here. But yeah, War of the Ring. It's a giant War of the Rings in a box, big 2-player game. One player is the Shadow Army, one player is the Free People, and the Free People are trying to destroy the ring or have a military victory. The Shadow Armies are trying to corrupt the ring bearers or have a military victory. It's just really fun. If you like Lord of the Rings, it's going to make it a lot better because every card makes sense thematically in terms of like, oh, this is why you're putting troops in Rohan because it's this part from the book or whatever, yada, yada, yada.
So cool.
And it's just fun. It's very well balanced, and each side really does have a good chance of winning.
Each game we've played, you've won as a Shadow Army, but it's been very close.
Especially the last game we just played. Mike was two or three steps from destroying the ring.
Walking up the hill of Mount Doom.
Yeah, and there was a bit of a tactical blunder on the Free Peoples, but but nonetheless, I was able to pull it out. But it's so much fun. We've been playing it recently. We played it 3 times in the last couple months. Yeah. And now it's in my head. I'm like, okay, now like I'm down to play it more often because it's just like you're not trying to relearn it over and over and over again.
Yeah. One last thing that I forgot, because we won't say anything about it because we don't want to get spoilers, but we've been playing Pandemic Legacy.
I was going to say, we haven't put that on the list, yeah.
Without saying anything about what's going on, it's really fun.
It's really fun.
It's really fun. Really love it.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
It's really fun. Yeah. So that's our games. So that's like 37 games or so. Again, slightly smaller month, but
6 or
somewhere in there. But it's
a good month of gaming nonetheless.
A good month, yeah. But yeah, that's so much. So at the end of every Rapid Reviews, we always give a shout out to our new patrons. We are Patreon powered, as some people say.
Patreon powered.
That's funny.
We have some Patreon pals that are new to the neighborhood.
I love it. But nonetheless, thank you so much to everyone who supports us on Patreon. If you want to support us on Patreon, check the link in the description below. But we'll give a big shout out. We got, oh my gosh, I closed the app. We got Luke. Bam. Thank you so much. Luke. We got Samuel. We got Jen. And we got Miravek. Thank you so much. We got 40 patrons this month. Y'all are, seriously, it blows our minds. It just makes us, I don't know.
Your continued support is just amazing. Really.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no other word for it. It's just incredibly life affirming, man. Just to know that we're doing stuff that people agree with. So if you like what we do and want to see us do more of it, we have a ton of wacky ideas for our future. Consider checking out our Patreon today. Yeah. We'd really appreciate it. Anything else, man?
I think that's it. Rapid Reviews.
It was a good way to start 2021.
It was not bad. It was not bad. Yeah.
Why not? Let us know what you played this month. What was your favorite game, new or old, that you played in the month of January 2021? Pop that in the comments below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much for checking out another Rapid Reviews. If you like what we did, check out last month's Rapid Reviews where we reviewed literally everything we own. So just know that it's a lot of games.
And why did we play everything we own, Mike?
Yeah.
Because we played everything because we had a big marathon video that'll be down there.
You want to see us play everything? You want to see us talk about everything? Choose one of those and then make sure you subscribe so you get notifications for all future massive review dumps that we do.
Sure.